Hey Plus, it's everyone, and welcome back to the channel, and happy April Fool's Day 2025. Like usual, I'll be using the opportunity to go for a more goofy and freeform topic than I usually would. One meant to be more of a one-shot for fun than the start of another focused story. This one, however, I have a throwback pull for that will further date both myself and the video, because Cartoon Network doesn't rerun this council show anymore. But do you remember Mad TV? Basically Robot Chicken for kids, where they'd make fun of the pop culture of the early 2010s with little animated sketches and jokes that often mashed up two different things. Or even more than that, like every so often when they do anime-based jokes, like Naruto 210 or Moneyball Z, as parodies of 90210 and Moneyball, a show and film I doubt many of my viewers are familiar with or care all too much about. But there was one more sketch that stayed in my head. One more that I think could have some legs decent enough for a gag.
Quick, baby Jaguar! We have to save that monkey!
Help! I fell out of my tree!
There! Monkeys live in trees! Time to go home and...
Help!
I tied myself in a knot!
I think I have pink eye.
I'm just sad.
There's just too many animals to save! I wish I could save them all!
Wish, huh? Then you'll need to find all 7 Dragon Balls.
Makes as much sense as anything else I do!
So for context, if you were born after the period of time between the years of 2005 to 2011 as things began to wind down with the rise of streaming and internet content making cable TV less of a common touchstone between everyone, you probably don't understand the exact kind of phenomenon that Nickelodeon used to have on their slimy hands with the DTEEU, or the Dora the Explore extended universe. Not sure if that's an actual fan term or not, but I'm using it. And as someone born in the year 2000, I remember the ascension of Dora, Boots, and Swiper into elder gods of the Nick networks, not all too long after eldest beings such as SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward established their own names in the hierarchy, both having the ability to spawn a pretty impressive number of spin-off shows, with Dora actually doing so first. Go Diego Go of course being one of them, which came at pretty much the peak of Dora's popularity, at least in terms of the original series from what I can remember, because Nick felt completely confident in giving Dora's cousin his own show, with what I can only describe as some extra typical shonen protagonist energy in it in an effort to attract boys to tune into the show more often, and possibly pick up the toys. It was kind of like one of those consequences of someone in a boardroom somewhere deciding that they would make more profit that way, which led to things like Disney XD being formed, for example. You know, we've been selling this to only one group, but if we try to promote it to everyone, we make more money, obviously. Something which always makes me laugh, because if you look at the program blocking of that channel these days, it's really abandoned that initial branding for a more neutral tone, kind of like what Toon Disney and Jetix had back in the day. Which is actually funnier because by now, we've actually had Disney XD longer than we had Toon Disney or Jetix. Wait, oh my god, I've wasted so much time talking about cable TV and nostalgia. I'm making myself sound old now. The point is, I think this Mad sketch is funny for multiple reasons. You can't convince me that Diego and his show as a concept weren't in part inspired by the early action-adventure focused storytelling of things like Dragon Ball, and or that both Go Diego Go and Dragon Ball as shows are probably key pieces of someone out there's childhood, as the two would have been airing simultaneously, the reruns of Diego and Dragon Ball Z Kai at around the same time for a lot of people who were very young at that time. It's not at all impossible for somebody's founding Dragon Ball moment to have been Go Diego Go went off and I turned on Dragon Ball Z Kai. That is, after all, one of the reasons that losing cable television as such a common cultural touchstone is kind of tragic, because so many people can attest to, oh yeah, I got into this one fandom by channel flipping. Also, not to stomp on low-hanging fruit, but it's literally Dragon Ball and some of the most popular and recognizable Hispanic characters in television and film, I guess, because they did that live action movie history. So I also know for a fact that at least encouraged someone in the studio when Matt was being animated to pitch this joke. And if not that, the fact that it set them up for this line.
Goku is an adult, but Piccolo is evil? Are we doing Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z?
Just be glad we're not doing Dragon Ball GT.
Which, take it how you will, is undeniably funny strictly on the basis that if I remember correctly, this episode of Mad would have been airing on a night not too long before Nicktoons as a competitor channel was about to begin showing GT, since at this time, Dragon Ball Z Kai was airing alongside the 4Kids network, but kept playing up to and looping back after the Cell saga. So they eventually began airing Dragon Ball GT because at this point, DBZ Kai the final chapters wasn't out yet to go past the Cell saga. So they needed something to consistently fill that slot they had gained all that weekly viewing viewership on, and they couldn't count on using the movies for that. It was a whole thing. My point is more just on the fact that it has this GT sucks joke, which is extremely calculated. Beyond that, and way more important for an April Fool's What If, it's something I'm sure many of you won't be expecting. So without any more preamble, padding out the runtime of this April Fool's video turned into just barely over a glorified short, let's finally ask the question of what if Go Dragon Ball Go was canon? Or what if Diego, and by proxy Dora, Marqueze, were in Dragon Ball? Well, first off, I think the math sketch actually presents a decent enough setup for the idea by throwing us an adult Goku who acts as a mentor figure to a new kid hero who seeks to defend the animals and the planet they call home. Since that's not a bad motivation to someone like Goku at all, and I could genuinely see the two developing a bond of master-disciple like he went on to have with Ooze. So let's keep it simple. The Marqueze family are just another set of formerly nameless background Earthlings who inhabit the Earth, since that's rather simple and enables us to also just say their parents and guardians or such were growing around the same time as Goku, Bulma, and the gang. So that way, the bigger recognizable names like Diego, his sister, cousins, and their various animal or animated object companions are born not too long before Gohan, so they can be his contemporaries. If you're familiar with my Pigro Canon What If, this concept shouldn't be too foreign to you, and what's more, here, it'd probably work a little easier to even greater effect, since the age gap is even smaller, and depending on how you want to look at and scale things, Diego's impact could be a lot less grounded. As if you think about it, much like that Picaro story, someone like Diego, this rough, tough, big-hearted, driven, goal-oriented, aspiring young action hero, who is already hyper-independent for his age, much like Bulma was, meaning this kid would be an amazing friend and early influence for a young Gohan. You could even easily imagine a setup where the tiger that attacks Gohan in the first episode of Z is maybe replaced with a jaguar that is possibly a relative of the baby jaguar that is Diego's pet and sidekick. Or you could literally just lift some more of the jokes of the Mad Sketch and have history repeat itself in a funny way. We just gotta make Turtle less of an asshole, or I suppose it'd be a cloaca hole in this context. Let's say not long after Chi-Chi and Goku's wedding, Roshi could send Turtle with a gift for the newlyweds, which caused him to get lost and need help again. But as Goku is now busy, a new younger but equally good Samaritan comes along, a 4-year-old Diego, who could display both the strength, cunning, and resolve to guide Turtle to Mount Paozu, and then back to his home, thus allowing the young boy to meet, befriend, and possibly even become Goku's first student extremely early on the timeline, which alone could come with its own bevy of caveats. Like for example, funnily enough, completing a quest like this and being the kind of character he is, much like a Raleigh-chan, this would probably result in the revelation that Diego is not only pure hard enough to ride the Nimbus Cloud, but due to the noble nature of his goal, and the fact that he won't be needing it as frequently these days, Goku would probably be willing to pass on the Enchanted Cloud, and at the very least, put in enough training during the next few years as to fully have no further needs of it for traveling or fighting. And with this step alone, you would already have an incredibly fun setup for your Saiyan Saga and beyond, with a few noteworthy changes to say the least already occurring. And again, all derived from a Mad TV sketch. To list them off, you already have a potential new generation of fighter and student appearing this soon in the timeline, a friend for Gohan around his age, not unlike Krillin or other Z fighters who back Goku, a logical and selfish reason for Goku to do some training during the time skip to Z, which could then convince Chi-Chi to allow for it, and by that nature benefit a great deal many characters other than Goku. And thus, a Piccolo who senses Goku getting himself likely 10 to 20% stronger at least, and possibly taking on a disciple, would as a result likely become jealous of, and then try to outdo his rival's gains, giving the story a slightly stronger Piccolo capable of changing things as well. Then you have a Gohan born with a character like Diego to help watch out for him, and hopefully help both he and Chi-Chi get out of their shells and trust in Gohan's own capabilities as they go on adventures together and save and study animals. The impact this could have on Gohan and his own dreaming of becoming a scholar, considering Diego's adventures, even in his own show, often place him in perilous situations, would see him here be able to far easier solve them in Dragon Ball. And thus, the effect this would have on Gohan's correlation of his strength with his capability to accomplish his own goals would be stronger as well. So now you would also have a Gohan with the motivation to get more powerful in order to go on grander adventures and learn new things. And I could keep waxing poetic about so much more genuinely. This isn't even mentioning any kind of Diego's potential or possible style of fighting or utilizing the natural life force and energy of Ki if he were to train and gain control of it through practice. This is kind of just a raw look over the story, or at least a possible one the prompt kind of comes up with in my head. As for the scaling stuff and fighting, I could see two routes, one with no stakes really but still some intrigue, and one with still some stakes but lots to win streaks to. The first is just leaning full gag character and not limiting Diego all too much, simply allowing his position as a character from a kid's cartoon tasked with accomplishing impossible goals in ways that are both educational and entertaining to children to watch, yet without any risk of anything untoward being exposed to them. He could just be a broken character through that kinda, you know? He probably wouldn't be like Word Girl levels of insane fictional power, but he'd certainly not be a jobber. The more interesting route to me, however, would be to go a route that incorporates Diego's love for animals into kind of a full Baki-style form fist combat system. You know, taking the wolf fang fist to the extreme and devising techniques based on the wide and wondrous animal kingdom. Is it that creative or out there an idea? Not really, but I'm already trying to mix Go Diego Go and Dragon Ball, so cut me some slack. Plus, some jokes that could probably work really well with Gohan, not just because of the whole beast thing, but also because of the nerd thing. Could just be the way that you go about the naming scheme for Diego's different moves. Like, they could start off really simple as just the animals that everyone knows, and then as they get more advanced and continue to grow with more experience, devising more complicated and complex techniques and applications of ki, then you can start to use more of the scientific names for animals, or even less common animals that take a greater study to find and kind of assess. And then there's also just the factor that this world has actual living dinosaurs and dragons, which makes the prospect of someone fighting like Beast Boy or Vixen from TC in this verse that much more interesting. And you can't tell me that's not one of the greatest crossovers of all time. Diego Marqueze from the Dora the Explorer universe using the T-Rex fist from Baki the Grappler in Dragon Ball. I mean, truly, peak content. Cinema. I would also say Diego does have the tools that he would probably have gotten from his cousin in this context, you know, as she too has a mysterious power granted to her through ki, though she is not really all that interested in fighting, that being his trusty animated backpack and camera. Because if you remember, something I forgot like almost until I got done writing this, the backpack transformed into stuff, which was way cooler than Dora's. Dora's backpack was just pretty much a bag of holding. But yes, for some reason I do mean to tease putting Dora into this story at some point with her own slightly more broken Toon Force abilities and probably some other characters. I'm never super keen on forcing continuation of these April Fool's concepts, since they often serve more as a fun thought experiment that helped me with writer's block if anything else. But as always, if there is enough support to actually do more in terms of effort and detail with one of these ideas, I'll more than consider it. Like, trust me, I don't need too big of an excuse to get some more visuals for this concept done. Dora in the Dragon Ball art style would go hard. A design for Boots and Swiper maybe looking like Gods of Destruction, or maybe members of Bergamo's race would also go incredibly hard. And I don't know, I've had fun just thinking about old shows that I watched 10 to 20 years ago. But before I completely exceed my time limit for what was supposed to be a joke, let's just say, in order to kind of conclude this into somewhat of a coherent story, that Diego's presence would likely lead to some major changes in the Saiyan saga, which would almost assuredly go either a lot easier or would end up with a more severe need to find and use the Namekian Dragon Balls extremely quickly, presenting a new challenge of going to explore a brand new world with untold and unknown wildlife upon it. So surely, Diego would not only want to tag along for this next leg of the journey, as to ensure that Gohan and the Z-Fighters continue to discover and grow with new things together while also having fun, but also to help each other out and bring about good for everyone. But that's where we'll be leaving this joke off for now. I hope you enjoyed not only my old man ramblings as I distinctly placed myself in my Unk era finally, but happy April Fool's Day and 20th anniversary of Go Diego Go. Stay goofy, insane, and wacky, and I'll catch you next time for something hopefully a bit more sensible. Be sure to take care of yourselves and the world around you, go beyond plus ultra, and I'll see you guys next time.